Yes. Emo.
Tony.
Jane.
Terry.
Nice little rip this morning. Somebody at the door.
Coming to the greeting committee there. How are you?
Good, Mary. How are you?
Ciao, Bella. Ciao. Thanks.
Hey, Mama. Hey, Mama.
Hey guys, how are you? Where's
I'm going to
Tony?
give it to Tony.
He said,
Oh, you can't hear otherwise. Hi, how are you? Misty. How are you? Oh.
I don't want to jump up suddenly. I don't know. Short lead.
Don't.
On a short lead.
Hi, Tony.
Hey, Tony.
Are you doing good?
Good.
How are everyone?
Tony.
On what front here?
You're lifted for your throne.
Game of Thrones? It's warm here.
Yeah, I'll be taking some clothes off soon.
Okay.
I can't wait. Not that many.
I thought we'd be late today.
We'll have some function.
We left about 15, 20 minutes late. I thought we were going to be very late.
Yeah, well, same old, same old. We call it non-duality, for want of a better term. I mean, that there is only this one essence, if you like to call it that word, essence even. It's expressing, patterning, shape, forming, and everything. Most people will call it God. But then there's so many different concepts about God. Different people have got different ideas of what it is. Different religions, different traditions. So we say here what the ancient scriptures will tell us, it's only that. That is all there is. That is the one essence, one intelligence energy, one God, or whatever you like to call it. Whatever label you like to put on it, it's only that one. There can be nothing other than that. This whole manifestation of cosmos, everything appearing, patterning, shaping, forming in it, is still only that one essence. What they call the Absolute. What can you add to the Absolute? Not the lightest, smallest, tiniest, minutest thing to it. If you could add anything to it, it wouldn't be absolute. What can you take away from it? Nothing whatsoever. So if what we're pointing to is the Absolute, you can't be anything other than that. But the pattern, shapes and forms we've taken on, these body minds, these personas of personal energy, we've taken on the belief that we are separate. And that sense in separation, or belief in separation, is the cause of all our problems. Just as a person, a persona, which comes from the ancient Latin word persona, the mask, meaning a conceptual image, and that's all it is. If there is such a thing as person, you'd be separate from the Absolute. And though when we take on this persona, we take on the idea that we are separate entities, individuals, persons. And we've taken on that belief from our parents, later on our school, society, everybody around us has reinforced that belief. And we haven't questioned it and started believing in it ourselves, so we add to it. Energy of belief goes into it, and it's seemingly real. There seems to be a lot of separate entities, individuals in this room. But have you ever tried to separate yourself? Have you ever investigated and seen whether you are separate or not? First goal to me. Because with separation comes the dualism. When they're pointing to one without a second consistently, not two. Taking on this idea, there's me, and as soon as there's me, there's got to be other than me, or not me. And isn't that what happens? Now you look around and it seems to be, everything seems to be separate. But can you look at it all? What are you seeing? Everything you're seeing, you must realise, is the content of space. It's in space. Have you ever had a look at space and try to grasp or put a centre to space, or anywhere, any static point? We can say this is where space begins. And you realise you can't find a static point anywhere in the space. And you can't conceptualise or think of anything that could be outside of space. Try that, have a look at it and see if you've got the idea there's something outside or separate from space, what would it be in? It wouldn't, you know. It's not, there's something single and separate outside of it. It's not taking up the whole of space, is it? It's only the absolute that all the space can be in and everything in. So if you've got anything you think is outside of space or separate and apart from space, it's dualism. And there's none of the ancient texts or scriptures pointing to the truth will say there's no dualism whatsoever. And a lot of them will tell you it's no thing. All the manifestation is made up of pattern, shapes and forms, which pattern, shape and form into things. Like the chair is a thing, the carpet is a thing, the tree is a thing, you are a thing, I am a thing, everything are things appearing in that space like emptiness, which you can't give any shape or form to it. So it's all everything appearing in that basic screen, which is the emptiness, which is the silence, which is the stillness, which is the no thing. So if all these appearances appearing in no thing, can there be anything other than the no thing? Can something come from nothing? You realise that something can not come from nothing, but all these things are appearing. What must they be? You must realise that all the appearances, everything that's appearing, is the nothing, no thing also, which is vibrating into different patterns, shapes and forms which make it seemingly like things. Like a ripple of energy will go through the ocean. And what will it form? It will form a ripple in the water, which will become a wave. And something will rub against something else, or the wind will vibrate against something else, make a sound. It's all taking place and never separated from the no thing. tell you in the scriptures that the Mahaveka, the great mantra, is I am that. That is what I am. The thing. I am that. Innately, in this language we've learned, in this speaking we've learned, we know that already, because that is a carpet, that is a chair, that is the mirror, that is the tree outside, that is that person in the room, that everything is that. These things we're talking about are all that. That's why we say they're all something. The things are that. Basically, they are the no thing, period. So that's what needs to recognise and be seen. Because it's the idea that we are separate entities, we are individuals, we are persons, taking ourselves to believe that. You look at that, just realise we're all our psychological suffering, all our fears, all our anxiety, all our stress, all our guilt, all our shame, remorse and everything else come about because we've taken on this belief we're separate. Because could the Absolute suffer from any of those so-called things? If it's all inclusive, it's all the totality, the omnipotence, the total mind, the total presence, the total power, could there be any suffering in it? And could there be any suffering or pain or fear if we hadn't learnt words which we put the label on? How are we discriminating it? If the cat doesn't know what the word pain means or the word fear, so we can express those sensations without putting the label on. So he's not got locked into the pattern, shape or form. It comes and goes because he's not putting any label on it, which the energy of belief goes into it, gives the label some simple or thinking that's some power of its own. So all these so-called things will appear. Can you take any one of them, or the least think out of that emptiness, out of that space? You can't. And all the content of space. But it's the label and words we put on them, the discrimination that makes them appear separate and apart. And all the vibrating patterns of that one intelligence energy, which I call intelligence energy rather than to use the term God. Because we get different takes on this term God from different traditions we belong to. Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, Hebrews, Jews, whatever. All have different concepts, different ideas, what they think this God is. I use intelligence energy, and these are just labels also. They're not it. Words we've learned. But what is intelligence? I liken intelligence to the activity of knowing. We are knowing right now. That's the label we put on this. Sensing or cognising. All labels we put on trying to describe it. Knowing full well the description can never be the described, no matter how we try to describe it right now. The description can never be it. It's only a pointer to it. So we put this label on intelligence energy, the activity of knowing, because knowing is not the known or will be known, not something static or dead. It's an activity, the knowing, the I engine that governs us is constantly functioning right now. Aren't you knowing right now? Can you negate that knowingness? Even if you say, I don't know. What's enabling you to say that? Isn't it the knowing enabling you to say, I don't know? And it's just a label you put on it, trying to describe it or trying to say something that's not cognised for what it is or recognised. So we don't know. We don't see. We don't hear. So knowing is an activity. And isn't that going on right now? You're not saying I know and then stop it. It's constantly going on, the knowing, just like the seeing. When after you say I see, do you stop seeing? You don't. The seeing is still happening, the same with the hearing. Have a look at these things that actuality are constantly going on. But we tried to label on it, put the label I or me on it, relating to this conceptual image we got, and that image then is a dead image, because it's based on past events, experience and conditioning. And that brings time into it. And is there such a thing as time when you look at it? We're told there's time, we see time, we've got clocks and things and tell the time and cast the time, but time really is duration, past, future, present. But is there a past if you don't think about it? What can you say without a thought? Can you say there's a past? Can you say there's a future? But you try and express it by saying I was in the past. Well, if you think you're in the past, try and live a moment ago. Is that activity of knowing going on a moment ago? Or is it the actuality that's going on right now? Is the seeing going on a moment ago? Is the hearing going on a moment ago? Is the thinking going on a moment ago? The thinking is taking place right in this immediacy, but we're relating it to some past event and say, I'm thinking about this, or what was the past? So, the past is a dead image, which we recall things from the past, put the labels on, and say we're living in the past. We're not. Same in the future. You can anticipate and imagine a future time. But can you live in the future? When is the living going on? Is it going on right now when you're imagining and anticipating the future? So when have you ever moved away from this immediacy? I think you're constantly doing it, but have you ever really? Isn't it always ever fresh and ever new? A spontaneous activity going on right in this, what we call, for want of a better term, immediacy. We put these labels on that seem to divide everything. But where did all those words come from? You realise every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been picked up or learned. Go back and look at it. Did you have any words when you were born? Can you even remember your birth? You can't. You say, I was born, but you're postulating some time that you can't even remember or recall. And it's based on the dead past right now. It's not there. And what you are right now that came about with the beginning when you seemingly came into existence, what you call your birth, what you can't remember and you didn't have any word. There's only a memory now. It's not even a memory because you can't remember it. You don't remember anything till you learn the words. But every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been picked up along the way. Something you're not born with. through this capacity of reasoning, the pure intelligence. Intelligence is not your intellect. It's the same intelligence as function in this manifestation. And the way it's patterning, expressing, shaping and forming implies it's suffused with that intelligence. And when I'm talking about intelligence energy, I'm not talking about the intellect. I'm talking about that same intelligence that's functioning in this manifestation, expressing and appearing as this manifestation, as the totality, forming galaxies, moving around planets, rolling the earth around the sun, causing the seasons to come and go, putting the activity and life into every form, pattern, shape and form in this manifestation. The insects, the birds, the bacteria, everything else are patterns of that intelligence energy expressing in its different pattern shapes. And as it's the absolute, nothing can be separated from. No, we appear to separate the thing. And it appears to be separated. But that's what they tell us in the ancient text, that this manifestation is Maya. Maya meaning illusion. A phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. Appearance only. And it certainly appears to be real. It certainly looks to be real. And the way it pattern shapes and forms in the wondrous, amazing ways it appears, doesn't that give credence to that innate intelligence that's able to form, pattern shape and form these things seemingly? And that innate intelligence, when you go to sleep at night and dream, you bring up a world that this body's seeming body you believe yourself to be, which the body is not doing it at all because it's lying on the bed asleep, no words are coming out of its mouth, no activities are coming through it. But the body in the dream is doing all sorts of activities, thinking, feeling, doing the same things as human patterns are doing. And it's the wondrous ways in this intelligence can express and does express, does appear. But it's the sense of separation from it, the idea that we're separate, is what makes us as individuals, as persons, suffer. Because we've taken on the belief that it is real. And these words, concepts or ideas we've learned are a vibration of that energy. That's all that energy is, a vibration. And we put the boundaries or words on the vibration. Good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating. Have a look at your mind, the thinking process is going on in you. See if it functions any other way. And you realise it's always functioning. And these words we put are the boundaries. The limitations we put on the unlimited. We're bound in the word, into the concept, into the idea. And when we realise and recognise that we are this separate entity, or see that we are this separate entity and make it real by believing in it, that sense of separation comes from us when we're told with the words, you're a good little boy, you're a good girl, you're this, that and the other, and your little Johnny or your little Jane or your little this, that or the other, putting words on it, we take those words to be real. You can't do much with those words. So we put other concepts up. What can you do with I or me when you learn the word I or me? You can't really do much with it at all until you add other concepts and make it real.
You got to balance it this way. It's too far that way. That's why.
No, he just keeps pulling the
pull the cord.
microphone. Yeah.
It's on an angle already, that's what I'm saying.
It's always this way, and it happens.
Anyway, so investigate this believed entity and see if you are that. Taking the beliefs, something comes up and I like it. How do you know? Well, I relate it to this conceptual image, me, Bob, the good fellow or the bad fellow. The conceptual image, I've got to be myself with it. And I like it. And don't we want to keep the things that are coming up, the good things? We don't want the good things to go. We want to be happy, enjoy it all the time. We don't want to be fearful, angry, unhappy, depressed, guilty, shameful, remorseful. But these things are happening just the same as it's happening in nature, the vibration, day, night, winter, summer, silence, sound, movement, stillness. And they're separated. Nature doesn't know anything about those things, but we separate it, day, night, silence, sound, winter, summer, by the word, just the same as we separate all these things by the word with ourselves. So we've got all this phenomenal manifestation going on, all made up with the word. But the word's not the thing. Take the word water. Can you drink the word? Can you wash in the word? Can you swim in it? You can't. Does the word fire burn your mouth? So if the word's not the thing, what's this word, I or me? We've taken it to be the thing, this pattern, shape and form, this persona, this mask. Put the label on. If you haven't got the label on yourself, what are you? Have you ceased to exist without the word? Or to translate it into words, isn't there a beingness there? A knowingness? And a loving to be? A sense of being there without any words? That is the Satchitananda, or the existence conscious bliss. Or the being, knowing, loving to be. That's there. And can you negate that right now? Is there anybody who is not being right now or existing? Anyone who is not conscious right now, or is unconscious or unaware right now? Anyone who doesn't want to be right now? So all these things are going, and you don't want to be other than that, you must be that. So something comes up and I like it. How do you know? Well, I've had this before. We relate this experience, this fresh, new experiencing that's happening to some past event. I had this experience before, it's good. And we want to keep the good things because we get some joy, some pleasure out of the good things, but we don't out of the bad things. We don't want the good things to go. Not realising that the manifestation is changing, it's transient. You haven't got the same body you walked in the room with, it's changing. Cells are dying right now and being written. We don't want it to go, so we want to keep it there. So to try and keep it there, we resist it from going. We try as hard as we can to hang on to this good thing. We want it to persist, to keep going on. But no matter how hard we try, it goes, it disappears, it moves on. And realise that resistance you are in is what is causing the suffering. Because resistance is conflict. You are in conflict with it. In other words, you're fighting it, resisting it. And that brings about the anxiety, the stress, the guilt, the shame, the unhappiness, the remorse, the fear, the anger. They're all come about through the conflict that's going on with the resistance. So all those things are uneasiness, a way of expressing it, anxiety. And another word for uneasy is disease. So there's resistance, conflict and disease constantly happening within you. Have a look and see if it's so. There are brief moments when these things are not going on. In deep sleep they're not going on. And other moments when they're not going on, when things are okay and enjoy it, when the good things are staying there. Something comes up and you don't like it. Again, the liking and disliking is coming when you related it to a previous event or experience or condition. You don't like this one. So what do we do with this one? We try to get rid of it. Again, we get in conflict by resisting it. Whichever way you go, while you're looking in the mind, looking for an answer, you're going to resist it. Again, resistance, conflict and disease. So what way is there out of this consistent resistance, conflict and disease that's going on with short moments of happiness or joy or pleasure? All these things are going on in this thing we call mind. Mind, which is nothing but conceptualizing or thinking. There is no such thing as mind apart from a thought. And that's all that mind is thinking or thought. And all those things that are going on that are causing the anxiety and the stress are concepts or thoughts. So we see where the problem is. The problem is this thing the thing we call the mind. Now, investigate this thing we call mind. We could easily to say my mind. We're constantly saying, oh, my mind, or I think this and that. Whose mind is it? Who's this me or mind? Who is this me or mind that has a mind? Is it this conceptual image? Oh, the good fellow or the bad fellow, whatever concept I've got about myself. Is mind a conceptual image? It's bringing up a conceptual image, but how real is that image? And I'm told that nothing can trouble you except your own imagination. But I'm told clearly that imagination or imaging in is the problem. That's the trouble. That's what's causing my anxiety, my fear, my guilt, my stress. Break it down to image in and realise that's all that's happening. In this so-called thinking process, which we call mind, images are constantly taking place. Images. Like reflections in the mirror are images in the mirror. They're appearing there, but can you say the reflection in the mirror is real? Can you grab the reflection? You can't say it's unreal. But you can't grab it, you can't say it's real. So it's neither real nor unreal, but it's appearing to be so, just like this phenomenal manifestation is appearing to be so. But the essence of the reflections in the mirror are the basic mirror that it's reflecting on. This is a poor analogy because the mirror needs something outside of itself to reflect in. But this manifestation, there is nothing outside of the space like awareness. What could it be? It couldn't be anything. So instead of something reflecting in it from outside, all this is taking place within it. So it'll continue to appear to be so. But when you see for certain that no thing is real, that whatever you call you or me or the content that's going on is the reality. It's the one reality that's enabling the pattern, shape and form and expresses everything, and there's nothing to be taken outside of that reality, outside of that space like awareness. So instead of taking on this continued belief that I am this separate entity, this individual, take your place as the absolute. Watch what comes up and expresses, and in the absolute itself will be watching and seeing. It's the seeing and the hearing, the tasting, touching, feeling. It is the functioning in all its variety. Take a stance as that. See how life goes then. When there's nothing you can take away from or separate from it. Though the sense of appearances will come and go. And you realise you are, as the South you are the birthless, timeless, spaceless, bodiless, mindless, beyond when and where, one reality that's patterning, shaping and forming and expressing as everything. Then this thing we call death that we're fearful of now, how are you going to be fearful of that? When you start to realise you never had any beginning in the first place, there was nothing born, and there's nothing such as, no such thing as petty or minute as this thing we call death could ever happen. Where are you going to go? Where did you come from? And you come from that beginningless little essence, which has always never been so. Where are you going to go? The pattern, shape and form might disappear, which will be no big deal because it isn't constantly changing now. Going back as far as you can remember, hasn't it been constantly changing since the time you first learned words? That'll change. And there'll be no separate entity or individual to know anything about that change when it comes about, just like it didn't know anything about the coming into being when you were born. You can't remember that even. You didn't know anything about that till the capacity of reasoning developed. And there'll be countless other forms, pattern, shapes and forms, that'll continue to express as that one essence. When the Buddha told you
Jesus form.
I forget what it's the father and the mother of everything.
It's just every being is your father.
Yeah, so if you are being right now, that means, take it the other way, you have been the father and mother of everything also already. Not just you had a beginning, it's a fresh and new start, that's what it appears to be. You've always never been that. Never been anything other than that. So whatever happens here, who's it going to really concern? And you know that already because you're losing different pattern, shapes and forms, they're disappearing all the time. Or leaving you, dying, they're moving away, constantly changing. Just like the weather, the wind, the air tides and everything else, they're all constantly changing. So we look at this thing you're seeing right now, hearing right now, tasting, touching, smelling, all these things are happening. Your eye doesn't tell you I see. You're seeing through the eye, but it's not saying I see. Look at this. Your ear doesn't tell you I hear. Hearing through the ears, but the ear's not saying listen to this, listen to that. It's the thought, the word that comes up and translates it as I see, as I hear. And the eye that's seeing, you're taking it from that thought-up entity, you're making it be the person, the persona, this separate entity, this individual, I see. It's taken to be the persona that sees. But can the thought I see actually see? Can a thought see the thought I see? Can the thought hear? The thought I hear can't see, the thought I see can't hear. The thought I'm aware is not your awareness. The thought can't do any of these things. So this mask of this persona cannot do anything at all. It's a fiction. The ego, which we're relating to, and relationship or relativity is the only problem we've ever had, dualism. What we're relating to can't do anything. And we've been looking in the mind, trying to work it out through the capacity of reasoning. And this intelligence energy, the capacity of reasoning we're taking to which is very useful, but it's self-destructive. We think we've got the answers to life. But how can something that is the pattern, shape and form of life know life as something separate and apart? Well, you can understand that you can't be anything other than that life. Trying to grasp life as a concept won't happen. So see, this thought-up entity, this ego, it can't see, can't hear, can't be aware, can't choose, can't do any of these things, is a fiction. If it can't do any of those things, who or what is doing it? Isn't it the same essence? Call it an essence or call it whatever you like, that's breathing you right now. You don't have to think about breathing. Beating your heart right now, you don't have to think about beating your heart. Expanding your lungs, contracting, replacing cells in your body, digesting your food, growing your hair and your fingernails, replacing cells and all this sort of thing. Livingness, enable thoughts, feelings and emotions to express through it. It's an amazing and wondrous intelligence. Not only to you, but to everything else in this manifestation that expresses through pattern, shapes and form. Doing it all in the same immediacy. Not racing around from one separate thing to another, because there's nothing separate in it. It's all inclusive. And you are that and can only be that. That's what we point out and ask you to look at, ask you the question along those lines, give us your spiel about it or whatever. But that's what needs to happen. Needing to point it out, which the ancients that formed the traditions and religions around, they didn't form them, they were formed around the message they had, which garbled it a bit and lost sight of the true essence of it. So it's available for everybody and everybody can utilise it. Away you go. See, before that noise comes on, there's a silence there we don't even hear. A sound there, I should say, we don't even hear. That's going out through that, because that's picking up sounds that we can't hear. There's all sorts of vibrations functioning going on. There you go.
Nobody wants to talk to that.
Yeah. Put them all to sleep.
Yeah. They've got to snap out of it now.
Such a nice space.
The silence is so beautiful.
Sorry I disturbed it.
No, I was just thinking how everything appears upon it. The sound, the traffic, you close your eyes and it's just that beautiful, I don't know, it's just that beautiful presence. Can't name it really, but it's, the breath going in and out, it's the sounds outside, it's your voice, it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful.
Enjoy it. That's right.
Yeah.
Abide is that, that's what they say. Abide is the pleasure and subtle, uncaused joy that's in it, the sense of well-being.
Yeah. Mm. My niece sent me a card from America, said, peace is always beautiful.
Mm.
It's true. Mm.
It's going to be a nightmare, this one.
It's got a mind of its own today, that.
Yeah, it's a
Short,
different,
short cord. We
Mm.
lost it, real cord.
it's a different mic. The expensive one is gone somewhere, I don't know where. Bob added something. This is maybe a nice way to look less personally on things. When you were talking about the animals and birds and insects and the sounds, there is silence here, and we can actually experience that silence because our ears are tuned between, I don't know, 4 and 40 whatever kilohertz or something. But the cats, they hear something completely different. The insects, they hear different spectrum of the sounds, so for them silence starts in completely different place. So it is actually nice to look at the whole appearance in that way. I mean, I just enjoy it, to see how the intelligence or consciousness expresses through different forms and patterns, covers up itself in a different ways. Like, you know, the bee will see some other things, or eagle, and a human will see other things. And every single human will appreciate different things. So it's almost as if the whole intelligence, through different forms, looks at itself, at different aspects of itself. Almost as if every wave of the ocean is experiencing itself as a separate form to actually merge back into the ocean. So it's just to remember that our limited capacity to hear, see, taste, touch and smell doesn't really, it gives us a glimpse of that immense intelligence. It doesn't give us more than a glimpse on the sensory level. But on the pre-sensory level, we don't really have any limitations. If the attention doesn't go to ears and eyes and everything, where the limits are, because obviously the eyes are tuned to see forms and overlook the emptiness. The ears are hearing sounds and overlooking the silence. And same with tastes, touch and smell, and same with thinking. When there is no thinking, there is no mind, there's no time, there's nothing. But this is where we go into the prior pre-sensory experience of pure being, of the experience that can't even be labeled or experience. It is pure experiencing. It's not a form. It doesn't have any taste. It doesn't have any flavor, anything to be named by. But it's undeniable. It can't be denied. It exists. I exist. The existence, pure existence. The I as a form is a fiction. But the primary sense of presence, which might translate as I am, is undeniable. Is always there. And on top of that, all the distractions show up, all the sounds, all the scenes, and they're beautiful. They show up to catch a glimpse of oneself as the other. Me, the consciousness, I am the other, I'm the tree, I'm the sky, I'm whatever the form. And really, when the love arises with that recognition that I am the everything, the collapsing happens naturally also, the collapse of the separation. Because it is to be experienced really, and it's not to be experienced 24/7 as a bliss that doesn't end. Because if it was, the bliss that has the beginning would have to have an end. If the bliss wasn't there yesterday, it means it's not really worthy of chasing, because it's an experience. It's again the sound, not the silence. Or is the scene and not the space.
So as human beings, we only...
That was excellent.
cat.
So as human beings, we only got certain abilities, right, which we experience, which is naturally by default. That's the way we're made, right?
Yeah.
As a human being, whereas the cat, as you said, you know, they've got different capabilities, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
But if you go back before the human senses, then we should be able to
Yes.
do everything what the cat or the tree or whatever, everything else that, you know, is capable of also. And
The being.
as the being, we should be
Yes.
able to
You
experience
are,
everything.
but as a being, if you have the form or the senses, you're limited by your senses. But your being, perhaps, is just the same as cat's being, or a tree's being, or a sky's being, or a carpet, or it's just a pure being.
It's only when we're stuck into the human senses that we're limited.
Yeah, the
Is that
human
right or
senses
not?
define the reality. You have your personalized world or reality.
See, we want to take on the idea we are the human being, but you are the totality. What's, you know, as I say, what the beingness and the cat and everything on it, where's it all coming from?
I'm from the same one.
Life essence, conscious energy. So the same it's formed you. You were that too. And that's the wondrous ways, as Kat was saying, the wondrous ways it can express in all its diversity, in all the amazing ways. We have things we haven't even reasoned out yet, or never like it.
So as long as we think we're just a human being, then we're restricted.
Yes.
Basically, that's it.
Yeah.
It's only when we step back and then we can see a lot more.
Well, if you really want to see what the cat is seeing, you'll probably have to become a cat, or you'll have to imagine being a cat. Because if you step back from all the sensory experiences, you are in pre-sense. So you are the experiencing of presence, pure presence, awareness of being.
And that includes everything. Correct?
That includes everything. That the same awareness of being
Yeah.
is every form experiencing. But it doesn't mean that you will experience senses of every form.
So it's that which formed you, formed this manifestation, everything. Is seeing and knowing everything. It's knowing what the cat's doing, what the bacteria in your guts are doing, and individualistic, everything's doing, you know. Expressing as you, expressing as everybody. That one essence, the absolute. That's what you are. But to take it from a human pattern, trying to, or any of these pattern shapes and forms, trying to know what's going on in another pattern, we're just like reflections in the mirror. Done it again.
Yes.
Murphy's Law today.
Never had this problem before.
What can one reflection say about the other reflection? Take it off, Kat.
No. Do you want to be heard? People won't hear you. I mean, people who will be watching us on YouTube won't hear you without it.
What about if you put the
No, he's
pad
just waving the hands. That's it.
on the side?
He's getting excited today, Bob. You're doing me.
Yeah, get out of here. No. Well, trying to cough, trying to do something else at the one time.
Can I just say something on that, or with the animals?
Yeah.
I think with the animals too, you can connect with animals.
Absolutely.
You can connect with animals
Yeah.
and actually talk to them. They'll talk back
Yeah.
telepathy-wise to you. You can sense things to them. They can sense things for you.
Absolutely.
Even nature.
Yeah.
You can connect with nature in the same thing.
Yes, it's one essence of pattern.
Exactly.
Expressing through everything.
Exactly.
Mm,
And
so
I've
true.
experienced that both ways, the nature
too.
and animals.
Me too.
So when you connect, there's no separation. It all becomes one.
Mm.
I think what's getting confusing here, it's not been clarified, as Kat did for a bit there, is that there's still separate roller coaster rides going down. So even if nothing's being labelled, it's just pure experience. It'll be a different experience, but because you're not thinking about it, you don't even know the other one's going on. You don't know what's going on over there. You just only this experience going down. And it has activity, it has movement. If you don't even call it movement or activity, it's just it's just this thing, you know. So what's going on anywhere else is absolutely irrelevant, and it won't be taken in here. unless there is some other form of psycho, whatever connection, and then it will be. That will be part of the experience going the roller coaster ride here.
Yes.
If I'm able to hear the cats, that will be part of this roller coaster ride here. I don't know what's going on for the cat at the same time.
Yeah.
But if I don't label it, it's just a ride. There's no
Mhm.
noticing that it's a roller coaster ride or there's anyone sitting in the roller coaster or anything. It's just something going down in this facility and that's it.
Yeah,
It's
good
pretty
point.
much just not labelled,
Mm-hmm.
not bounded, not
Mm-hmm.
just experience per se.
Yes.
Well, the Zagara gives you in a nutshell. When he says, when I know that I am nothing, that is wisdom. That is the pure intelligence, recognising nothing. When I know that I am everything, that is love. That's the knowing, the connection with everything, the pure being. And between those two concepts, like life continually flows. It vibrates between the nothingness and the love, continually. Just a vibration. And the absolute has still never been anything other than the absolute. No matter what, we can fracture it, cut it up, do what we like with it. Carve it up if you can, it'll still be the absolute.
And regarding all that experiences like telepathy, and it's quite popular for parents, to have the sense when something's wrong is happening with the child, that intuition. Or twins, they often sense one another. Or people who are really, really close and connected. I always had it with my partners that, whatever would be happening, that would be just... And Tony, you could actually, if you really kind of drawn to it, find out and get the special training in training your capacity to actually sense other beings. It is totally possible. It's nothing impossible in the appearance. You can train to levitate or do whatever you want. It's the dream. You can do anything. The question is that really a priority, to sense what other person is sensing? Or to find the absolute truth, the base, in which there is no separation between one person and the other. And this is what Tony was expressing beautifully. I love your way of expressing it. So, it's always what is going on in here. If there is no body, it's just pure experiencing, they're just floating sensations and thoughts and whatever is something showing up. And now, if I will have the story about having being in somebody else's head, a cat's head or whatever, that's still showing up in here. This is the presence here, and that's what is showing up here. Now analyzing or wanting or desiring something else that what is also showing up here. And now the following of it may be also showing up here. Like people dream to learn to manifest things, or dream to learn the capacity to have any other special powers. Yeah, it's happening. In the appearance, the consciousness with its infinite creativity expresses as supernatural powers through some waves in the oceans also. Is that your calling? Follow it. It is not? Find the truth. And that will be the first. I think that's the best way to actually find your direction in life. Just dissolve into that emptiness and see what is going to show up next. Because, as Bob is saying, get yourself out of the way and you will be amazed what talents will show up when they are not filtered by this personal self.
Yeah.
All those thoughts about the personal self are all totality as well.
Yeah.
Because
Pardon?
all the thoughts that are creating this me are also arising from totality.
Yes.
So,
So if you've never thought a thought in your life, it's all arising. Thinking is happening.
it's just the grabbing hold of them that makes them seemingly solid.
Our conditioned belief that I think, I see, I hear.
But they're all there naturally anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just playing. It's like it's playing, creating separate.
Yeah, it formed the pattern to express through. With the eyes, ears, mouth, heart, lungs, and body and brain. It formed all that. That's like we form computers to express through. No power, not a bit of good.
It's just like ocean forming a waves to express itself through. And is one could say, is the nature of the ocean to wave. And of course it's a limited analogy because ocean needs the wind, which is outside of itself, to form the waves. But if we assume that there is just one ocean waving, then we could say it's the nature of it. It's the same as is the nature of consciousness to appear as separate forms and to assume that the separate form has the separate self and the capacity to take credit for every thoughts that arise also. Because, of course, how ridiculous it is to believe that the thought that is arising, the body that is arising, has anything to do with some sort of a fictional me that is doing it. Like, if there is a me who is doing the thinking, well, tell me how you do it. Because, I don't know, nobody knows how to produce the thought. They just arise. But, as you say, yes, this is how the consciousness is waving, including taking credit for the thoughts, including the egos. That is also how the consciousness is waving.
Just playing with itself.
Yeah, it's just playing with itself, and the only thing you can is masturbating. Is the only thing to be done is also happening from the consciousness is the natural recognition of the tendency to take credit for something that spontaneously arises. Recognition of that tendency to form the image to which everything is related as relevant to the image of me. That recognition is also the way consciousness waves. And sometimes it does, in one body it does, in another there is no recognition. So in some bodies the suffering is the gateway to the recognition. In some bodies, the life is so easy that recognition doesn't happen, but the ride is still what a ride. It's still a nice, easy ride. And those people, they never even look into the truth. They don't need to. They serving a purpose. As Tony was saying, roller coaster is just riding and is having fun. It's playing. God is playing.
I love what Nisargadatta says, that there's noumenon and there's phenomenon, and in noumenon's unicity it can't know itself, so it creates phenomenon. And that's what we are, phenomenon, in the phenomenal universe, because the play of consciousness wants to have a bit of fun. Yeah.
And phenomena is only appearance, it's only seeming so.
Somehow movement turned up on the scene.
So with the taste, with our senses of taste, touch and smell and thought or whatever else that we were speaking about before, with that you can't see the truth, like the absolute. You can't see the absolute, you can't hear the absolute. There's a sense of it, like my hearing can't hear the absolute, my seeing can't see the absolute. There's just a sense of it. So that's just say, for example, that's absolute. That's me, I'm connected to it. That's the cat, that's connected to it. That's somebody else connected to it. That's the bird connected to it. So there's a sense, as I sort of slowly slip back to that, there's a sense of being that, in a sense, and then you just see me, so to speak. So the hearing in that is going on. So there's only a sense of it. I can't actually see it, I can't actually taste it, I can't touch it, I can't.
Because you are it.
But I am,
It's pre-sense.
Pre-sense, that's me pre-sense before I become...
Prior to.
Yes.
Again.
See the sensations is fresh in you instead of labelling with the this one's fair, this one's fair.
Yeah.
Have a look at it from its come when it comes up. Question.
And also, if you are that absolute, if you are that, the only way you can actually vacate yourself and see yourself from outside is when you imagine, when you dream. So that's why you dream to be an other, you dream to be a form, and you dream every other form to be separate from yourself. Because if you are the whole ocean, and you are the every wave, so how could you possibly grasp yourself or touch yourself or get the hint of yourself in other ways than just imagining that you are not all the ocean? You are just part of it, looking at the other part of it. So that's why the separation is impossible, and that's why the whole dream, the whole manifestation cannot possibly be anything other than the emptiness.
You can't, as it says in the Gita, the fire can't burn it, the wind can't dry it, the water can't drown it. What's the other one? I forget the other one. Egg.
Something can't cut it?
Yes, sword can't cut it. Yeah. Why? Because it contains all of those things. Nothing can contain it or touch it. Yeah. Sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I just want to know if there is an alternative. For example, instead of recognizing, is there any alternative to disidentify with ego, or in another word, disidentification with ego, with recognition, which happens in the realm of awareness. Awareness recognizes itself by itself, and that's recognition. I would like to know, other than this, is there an alternative to disidentify with mind and ego and persona and everything?
But how would you know you disidentify if you didn't recognize this identification?
And who'd be trying to...
There is no alternative.
No, you could have as many versions of it as you want, but you can put different labels on it. But if, let's say, if you're watching, you think the ego, because people have different definitions of the ego, but let's say your definition of the ego would be a persona or mask of personality or set of behavior patterns or set of taking credit. And now you are disidentified with it and you're watching it. You're watching it as an object in consciousness. So you are already free, you are already the awareness watching the arising object, the ego or the habit pattern or the taking credit pattern. But in that, the recognition is already involved. Because if you recognize the ego as an object, you can call it disidentification, or you can call it recognizing as an object. Is the word. Whether you call it, the same process labeled differently will have a little bit of a different flavor to it. You say, okay, detachment, but who is detaching? Okay, there is a witness. Okay, let's detach from the witness also. And let's detach from the witness of the witness. And then you end up as a space of awareness being detached. But every moment of detachment is equal to recognizing what you are detaching from as an object in consciousness. Is that what you meant?
Yes, that's right. And also, I accept. I don't want to say I accept or I understand that this identification must result in experience, which means you don't suffer anymore mentally at all. You don't experience unhappiness at all. That's the distance between you and between the true self and the false self or illusory self. Because if you don't have distance, for example, there's something in here which explodes, and I have 1 centimeter distance to it, or in another way I stick to it, so I definitely damaged. But if I have 1 kilometer or 10 kilometer distance with this explosive device, if it explodes, nothing's going to happen to me. Explosion happens, and I still exist. But only because of the distance, nothing bad going to happen to me. So
beautifully said. Amazing. I like that. Yeah.
This distance is very important, and I think that's the only description for recognition. But I just want to know if there's another way of distance, or I don't think so.
Who wants to know?
It's if you ask, is there an alternative? You know, yeah, a lobotomy.
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 A lobotomy.
Yeah.
Chop out part of the brain. Lobotomy.
Oh,
See, where would you find an alternative? See, when they're looking in the mind trying to find an answer. Now, the mind's going to give you all sorts of answers, but is any one of the answers correct?
you know, and unfortunately, I have a very good mind. I mean, my mind is giving me variety of different answers, and can, you know, deceive me very easily. And unfortunately, most of the times I accept it. But at the end of the day, it's just thoughts, emotions, and different things come. That means it's not the pure knowing, because pure is always same at any circumstances, and that's it. That's it.
And you realise that things are always going to appear while the mind is there. If you don't have a lobotomy, you know, it'll still appear in the opposite. But the difference is you know the truth about it.
And then if you...
What sits with you, what resonates with you as the truth?
What is the...
Without putting a concept on it. Like what is wrong with right now if you don't think about it?
You know, I can answer the question with a question. Where is the border of duality and non-duality? Can you please elaborate on that? That would be very helpful. Question.
That's what you just said. What's wrong if you don't think about it?
What's wrong if I don't think about it?
What's wrong with right now
If you're not thinking.
if you don't think about it?
Nothing at all.
That's it.
That's the border.
Yes.
Where's the duality then?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the duality then?
If you're not thinking.
When I'm not thinking, it's not duality.
That's right.
Non-duality.
And when you're thinking,
That's it. That's duality.
Yeah.
that's your answer.
Well, there's
That's
your
your
answer.
answer.
So there's the answer.
Complication, you know.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with right now if you don't think about it?
Nothing at all.
And that will happen more and more often. And that's it.
I must stay here. I mean, I cannot. It's difficult.
You can record it, what's in it wrong if you don't think about it, and play it every
Still
half
not
hour
enough.
in your class.
Still not enough.
Yeah.
What's he saying? He must think about it.
No, he'll stay here. He'll stay here.
You'll stay here.
So he doesn't have to think about it.
But it's difficult, yeah. So instead of record a voice saying what's wrong if you don't think about it and listen to it regularly.
I'm moving out of the water.
I think what it is you're trying to stop. I think what it is you're trying to stop the mind coming up with stuff, and the mind is never going to stop coming up with stuff. But when you know who you're not, it doesn't have that same, impact. If you burn your hand on a stove, you don't go back and put it there, do you? Well, that's it. So when those things come up, you go, there it is, doing its dual thing. Because the mind can only work in those parameters, as you know. The mind can only work in duality. So what's watching that duality? What's watching the mind doing that dual thing? It's like lying on your back and watching the clouds in the sky. That's what it's like. When there's no me to attach to, it's just going, there's that story about a me that doesn't exist. There's that story about this, there's that. It's just like watching the clouds in the sky.
With no watching.
And as you know.
You know, this is 100% correct, and I know.
Yeah.
But still, you know, mind is very fresh. Mind is very fresh stuff. You think it's very new. Let me try this one today, just this one.
Exactly, and that's its nature.
And suffering
its
happens
nature.
to you again and again and again.
Yeah.
And you feel the emotion inside the thoughts, if we can say it like that. And, you know, that's enough to make you mood negative and you feel anxiety or depressed. And it stayed there because now you're hopeless that I become hopeless that I should change my strategy. I should change my strategy. It's beginning of another variety of different plans, different things, and again, I just drown into the mind.
Yeah, because the mind's always going to, do that. But there's no solutions there, ever. There's no solutions in the mind, ever, as you know. Because the duality can only work in that way. The pleasure, pain, happy, sad, me, you, anxious, happy, it's always going to be labelling. It's nature. It's like a clunky computer. It's always going to be doing that.
Super.
But who's that presence that watches? I mean, what's that presence that watches that?
That's me.
Well, it's nothing definable. It's just when you're not thinking, it's whatever's there.
And so you just go, oh, well, there it is again. I'm not going there. Not that there's a you not to go there, but I'm just saying, you just go full stop.
How can I not go there?
You just did it before when you weren't thinking about it.
It's what's wrong with right now if you don't think about it.
Like for some people, they do touch
the
the
thoughts.
We a few minutes because a few minutes ago we conclude that the thoughts just arise
Yes.
automatically.
Yes.
So with this automatically arising of thoughts, is it still possible to not thinking?
It doesn't. It doesn't matter. Look, if you are attached to the silence and then there is noise, you're unhappy, you're suffering, because you only want quiet, and noises arising, traffic sounds arising, and now you are bound because you have strong preference. There is a me who wants this over that. That suffering. Freedom is when you are free. For the silence to be there or for the noise to be there. And the same thing happens with the thinking. Whether the clouds of thoughts are there or the clouds of thoughts are not there. You are the depth of the ocean. You're not the surface when the stormy waves are coming. You're not that. You are beyond. So even if the mind is going into duality, into thinking, you are completely so far away. You are so much further away from the sound and silence, space and objects, because who you are is the essence that forms all that manifestation. And this one it slowly stabilizes into your nature. It's almost as if you kind of remember your being. So the 100% of attention which you usually invest in the thinking, a little, maybe 90% in the thinking and 10% in the seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. Now, half of the attention stays in the sense of presence, awareness of presence. And only 50% is distributed but equally, not all into thinking. So the thoughts are coming up, but they so... you don't even pay attention to them. They appear and disappear. Occasionally, the thought may be very, very strong, the pattern of, let's say, jealousy or something that is very, very ingrained pattern, and will take you for a little bit of a stronger ride, but it will never be as strong as if it was completely the you and the personal thought or the personal jealousy or something. So it boils down to ultimate truth, ultimate freedom. Is freedom for all the reality to be as it is. Like people were waking up in the realm of Holocaust in Auschwitz in Poland, and these people, even though they were seeing children being tortured and people dying, the sense of peace was totally underlying all the suffering that is happening on the surface. Like the bottom, the depth of the ocean is always still, regardless of the waves, storms, or whatever happens. This is the freedom. And recognizing that freedom, even if the turmoil goes on in the thinking, you're not your thinking. They're just clouds, stormy clouds, or light clouds, or no clouds. Freedom to have absolutely no preference, whether the silence or sound or noise or whatever is going on. That's the freedom. And it is there, it's always there, because as you know, Bob sometimes uses the analogy of the noise, like he would strike the gong or something. Is the silence ever obscured by the sound? Or is the space ever obscured by the objects? It's always there, whether the objects are appearing in the space or the sounds are appearing in the silence. The absence of sound is always there anyway. potentially. So in the mind, if there are noise or because thoughts are almost like sights and sounds, because they are often showing up as images or as words, as sounds. So they're really the same, and they happen the same way also. So just detachment and recognition. This is the ocean waving, but I'm the presence, the awareness of presence. Basically just watching the ocean waving, and watching, including the day and the night, the pleasure and the pain, the happiness and the sadness. All of it is how it expresses, and it can't be any other way. It has to be good, bad, pleasant, painful. It can't be only good without the bad. It can't be only day without the night.
And I don't know if it helped you more, Mike, because this is a kind of macro explanation. And when Kat talks about focus, for me it really helps to know what's actually happening on the micro level. And it's really just a next moment where there's no judgment on the moment before. There's another moment of not thinking about it. And then at the next moment there's no assessment of the moment before. There's another moment of not thinking about it. And as those become more and more, that's called abiding. And it feels more peaceful overall in this macro kind of level. But really it's just more moments where something isn't thought about. And when Jane says for some people, the stove gets touched and not touched again. For others, it's like you're getting in the shower, and each time the shower gets turned down a little bit until it's cooler and cooler and cooler. And it's just more moments showing up where nothing is there's no assessment on the moment before. And that's it.
And the coming back to what's wrong with right now if you don't think about it. Just coming back to it.
Just that, just
Whatever pointer works for you.
Yeah.
Whatever pointer works. Because all we can do is point to something that is nameless. So
Here you'll get a good
whatever strategy works for you is cool.
Sometimes confronting the happiness release some of our energy. Sometimes I think I feel I have to use another strategy. So maybe condition by condition strategy.
Can I just say something?
And don't arise, yes.
Can I just say something on it? You know, before when you were talking about gap, getting distance?
Yeah.
Yeah? What do you mean by that? Getting distance from what? I want to know what you mean by that.
Unhappiness.
Unhappiness.
Unhappiness which feels in the body and in the...
Unhappiness, did you say?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and how does that present itself? That unhappiness.
First began with a thought,
Right.
or an emotion, and that emotion
Right.
initiated that thought, and then
Good.
unhappiness
Good.
experience in the body.
Okay. And you're aware of that?
Yes.
Yeah, because what you talked about before was a gap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, when I said, and you're aware of it, yeah? Who is that that's aware of it? Is it, let me put it this way. Are you sure, can you be absolutely sure, and you might want to have a look at this, that is it possible that you're still there as an entity claiming ownership of being aware of whatever?
The unhappiness.
Aware of whatever. Because you talk about a gap, right? And then we identify, okay, it's thoughts and it's emotions and it's just stuff that appears, yeah? In mind, if we want to use that terminology, yeah? Okay. So there's a gap that happens there, and as you said before, you know, if I'm a centimetre away from it, you kind of wear it. You wear the explosion, I think you said. If you're 10 kilometres away from it, it can explode and it's nothing, yeah? Which is, again, more of a gap, okay? But one of the things that people often, that the trap that people often fall into is that there's still a belief that it's me here now aware of content out there or content in here. We believe that it's me that's aware of whatever it is that may be arising as a thought or as an emotion. And we don't look at that. We don't go there. we don't actually look at that. There's still an assumption that there's me here that is aware of. That me needs to be looked for. That me. Because if that belief is there, there's no gap. All that's happened is there's a gap between thoughts that arise. That's it. There's just a gap, and we become aware that thoughts arise, yeah? And there's a gap there, but we don't look any further than that. We still assume that it's me here that is now aware of the thoughts that are arising. And it's so close that you're wearing it. You can't even see it. You're not even aware that that's what's actually taking place. And if you did see that, if there was a gap that came up between that really close personalised identity that's claiming ownership of being aware, if a gap happens there, not a single solitary question would come up. Zero.
Because as Bob said in the beginning, all conflict arises between this supposed me, which is a thought, and the other person, place, or thing, which are all just thoughts. So a me who's anxious, it's a me thinking it's anxious. You know what I'm saying?
What you said is in another one.
And thought, feeling and emotion is one. So it's all the one.
You said that everything happened outside. In fact, happens inside, and the influence that we get from outside incident, we have it inside. So if we repair the inside, nothing outside can influence our inside. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but you're missing the point. You're missing the point. Okay, that's. We could have a discussion about that if you want. Okay, I'd rather not.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I have to go and prepare a lunch. So I'm going to bless you all and see you all soon.
Yeah, the time has come anyway.
I'll see you there, Bocky.
Okay.
Love everyone.
Take
Bye.
care, then.
Oh yeah.
Jazz, I sent you the address. Okay.
The real question really is there somebody here still being affected? And from everything that you've said, there is. There is still somebody, a believed in somebody that's there that can be affected. And you're assuming it to be real, and you're even assuming that it has awareness, but that it is still a self-identity. And you need to go looking for that. It's one thing to see the content of thoughts that just arise in the mind. That's one thing. Yeah? But generally what we do when we go through that process, often we don't even realise we're doing it. There's still a me there that's now claiming ownership of, now I can see all that stuff. I can see thoughts just arise and fall away in and of themselves, and I can see I can't turn a thought off. It just happens all by itself. I can't control the thinking. It just all happens. Yeah? There's still an entity there that we haven't looked at. So there's no gap. Like the gap that you described before, but the gap that you described before is just getting distance from the content of thought. Now, before we had that distance from the content of thought, not only was there a me entity there, but we're also wearing all the content of thought as well, which we've now got a bit of a distance with. So it doesn't affect you as much. It doesn't. Because you see it for what it is. Yeah? But the real personalised sense of self here that needs to be seen, rather than getting caught up in the intellect, which is what generally happens when a gap happens and we become aware of all the content of thought. Then when that happens, we're kind of, well, now what? Where do we go from there? And then we get caught up in the intellect. and start having conversations about this and that and how does this work and how can I, is there an alternative or rah. There's still an entity there that needs to be seen. Like, absolutely needs to be seen. Prior to you coming, and I don't know how long you've been doing this, but there would have been a time in the past, I don't know how long ago, but there would have been a time in the past where you had no gap in relation to the content of your thought. There wouldn't have been a gap. Okay? So now there's a gap, and it can get bigger, if you like. Yeah. Now you need to try and create a gap between this personalised sense of self, because it's still there. If it wasn't there, there wouldn't be a single question that would come up. Yeah. So that personal entity is still there, still seeking, still wanting to find a way out, or discover something, or become something, or let something go. That needs to be seen. You need to go, you need to go looking for that.
That's right.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's it.
100%.
So look for that.
I will.
And full stop on everything else. Literally, full stop on everything else. What is that? All your attention completely focused. What is it? Where is it? What is it? And nothing else. Just attention, focus there. What is it? Where is it? And full stop to everything else. Because that's what you're trying to find. Isn't it?
That's correct. And I don't think I can find it.
Don't think.
Don't think. Just look. Stay with the looking. Stay with it. Stay with it. And come to know what it is. What is it? What is it? Where is it? One thing is I can't find it, but what is it?
But one thing he said is I can't find it.
Sure.
You'll never find it. It's not there.
Yeah, but he's got to look.
Yeah,
But
of course.
that's
Everyone
that's
has
the
to
answer.
look.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you got. Otherwise, we go, oh yes, not. Then we become flippant about it, and we drop it as a concept and never look.
So practically, you insist that I should practically do it.
Yes.
Look for it.
Yes. Absolutely. Look.
Exercise.
What is it? Where is it?
And you may not find what you are expecting, because as Tony said, yes, there is no entity, and you know that because Nisargadatta told you and everyone tells
Everyone
you
else tells
that
you.
there is. But this is not the answer. To say, no, I won't be looking because there's nothing there. Well, there is an experiencing. You're not going to find the mask of personality because it's a fiction, it's a dream. But there is something there. There is something so undeniably precious. There is a source of the whole universe there. When you keep looking, you can tap into that source, and the boundaries will dissolve, because the boundaries, when you say I am, you think you are within the limits of your skin, because that's where your senses are reaching. But if you drop the limits of the skin, you are unlimited. The looking in will connect you to that presence awareness, the sense of I am. And then if you try to find the boundaries, keep trying. Yes, you won't find it, but you will find something. There is not a void. There is not a nothing there. Aliveness is not a nothing. So looking is really the instruction. The answer, I don't know. The Zen is doing it. The answer is, I don't know. Okay, so keep, who am I? I don't know. Who am I? I don't know. It's a wrong answer. It is the answer really to just silence the mind. Or who am I? There's nobody there. Who am I? Is nobody there. Again, this is only for the mind. But your gut or your heart or the essence or the source, it really exists. You can't say I don't exist, even though there is no persona, there is no mental image. There's something there, very, very alive, very precious. It's not that you're going to find nothing. Your mind is going to find nothing. But you, who you truly are, there is not a nothing. Nothing for the mind only.
I don't care about mind anymore.
Yeah.
Good.
Right,
So
right.
forget about what mind is going to find, because the mind is going to find nothing, but forget about it. Stay in that nothing for the mind, and something, the mind may drop off, and something more precious and beautiful will reveal itself beyond that nothingness of the mind.
In the absence of mind, something gets revealed.
Paradise. Happy.
Don't label it. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Stop doing that. Stop doing that.
Stuff
Because
will
you'll go
arise
looking
when-
for that.
Stuff will arise when it's empty, but you've no idea what.
Yes, I started looking for it if I label it.
Yeah, don't.
labeling.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Don't stop labeling it. Stop.
Let yourself be surprised.
Yeah.
You can never know in advance. Can you know anything in advance?
Neutral.
And it's always fresh and new.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.